Hello guys, welcome to Dear Dev. We want to look into coding with Python, but just before we start writing our code, let's take a pause and figure out some things. Some years back, I was trying to learn Python. I attend PyLadies. I see this lady perform miracles, like she wrote lines of code, and by the time she ran her code, I see a beautiful graph displayed on the screen, and I was like, wow, my mind was blown. You mean Python can do this? I am going into Python. But then I spent weeks trying to figure out, okay, should I start like this? I write this, I delete, I write another thing, I delete. So I don't want us to just jump in. I want us to understand a few things before we start. Like start proper. We are going to be mostly working with our computer, the terminal in our computer, a code editor, and then a Python program. You need to understand that the computers are very literal. When you give it instructions, there should be no room for guesswork because it works literally. When you say, get a pot, put water, the computer gets the pot, puts water, and there's a likelihood that it will be stuck at the point of putting water because it does not know at what point to stop putting water. That is just one thing that it could do. Or it could just put a drop of water and then get it to the stove. So when you want your computer to do something, you have to be very, very explicit. You say, get the pot, clean the pot, put 2 liters of water, cover the pot, put the pot on the stove, light the stove, boil for 5 minutes. If you do not tell it to boil for 5 minutes, it might boil forever. So the computers are very literal. As I said, coding is about instructions. So they have to be very basic and very clear instructions. Sometimes you use some apps and they give you this impression that the program is thinking about a response to give you. It can't think. It cannot think. It is going to give you responses based on the instructions that has been fed into its brain. So even though it has brain, the CPU, it does not think. It only follows instructions. So we need to give it very clear instructions. When we want to talk to our computer directly, we use the terminal. Normally, when you open your PC, especially when you use Windows, you have a lot of user interfaces that tells you, click this button to print this, click that button to do that. Those interfaces are like middlemen going to go and talk to your computer for you. But when you come to the terminal, you are doing a direct conversation. You guys have become pals. So you don't have any middleman talking on your behalf. So you need to understand 1 or 2 things that you're going to be saying in the terminal's language. So instead of going to your, I would say maybe your folder UI and click on a button, right click, then select new folder, you have to be the one to create your folder yourself using your terminal. You can use the normal process of creating folders, but it's just faster and way cooler to use the terminal to do that. We are going into coding now, aren't we? Let me show you my terminal. Here we have my terminal. There are many commands to use in your terminal, but I'm just going to give you a few that can make us easily move around in our terminal. The first is our pwd. It says print working directory. In our PC, we have files, and these files are stored in directories or folders, as we like to say. So when we say working directory, we are talking about the directory where we are in the terminal. So there are many directories, there are many folders in your PC, but you cannot be in all of them within the same terminal at the same time. You are always usually in one of them. So when you want to know where you are, you ask pwd and it prints the working directory. From what it tells me here, I'm in the folder called home/document/python codes. That's where I am right now. Sometimes you want to create a folder to work on something like your Python codes. So when you want to do that, instead of going out and going using the interface to create a folder, you can just come here and say make directory. You should notice that when you are talking about folders, in the terminal there's usually reference to directories because that's what it is called. Directory, it's a directory. We call it folders, directory interchangeably. So you will say make directory, that's MKDIR. It's abbreviated, but you're making your directory. What's the name of the folder you want to create? What's the name of the directory? I would call it new code. It has created the directory, but you can't see it. It does not look so obvious. So for you to know the items that are inside the current folder where you are, the items in the current directory where you are, use ls to list them. As you can see, when I used ls, I saw the create folder I just created. New code. I want to work right inside that new code folder. Then I will have to do a change directory, cd. So for me to be sure that I'm inside the cd folder, I can go back and do my print working directory. I am in new code folder. There are many, but I will just ask us to work with these ones we have. Print working directory, make directory, ls to list, then cd to change directory. With time, you'll figure out the rest. We are talking directly to the computer, and it has answered us without using any interface. When you see people doing this in movies, you see, oh my God, that person is awesome. Can't you see that you're already on the path? You have started out with being awesome. We have talked about the fact that we need our computer, we need our terminal, but then we also need a Python program. If we're going to be writing in the Python programming language, then we need a Python program to do the interpretation for us. So the thing is, as much as I say that computers are literal, what they understand are zeros and ones. People did it in the past where they write zeros and ones for computers to understand. But thank God, people have come up with other languages that help us talk to the computer without zeros and ones. So that is one of the things that Python does for us. It helps us to translate our code into a way that the computer will understand. So we need our Python program. So you install the Python program, and then when you tell it, oh, this is my code, give it to the computer. It does that for you. So you don't need to start figuring out zeros and ones. All we need to do is head to python.org, click downloads, select your operating system, Windows, macOS, Android, any other platform, to download the Python program. Normally, there is the latest version that is highlighted, but if you don't want that, you could scroll down and figure out the version you want. Normally, if you're using Linux, it comes with Python. But for Windows users, there's a likelihood you have to go online and download it. Follow the instructions for installation. And do not forget that when you're installing it, you need to click on Add to Path so that Python is added to your path. We want to write codes that Python is going to translate to the computer for the computer to understand and follow our instructions verbatim. But when we write our code in things like Word documents, it's not going to work because by default, all those documents, Word documents and other kind of documents come with formatting. And in writing our code, we are not expecting any form of formatting. We just want to write plain text, plain characters without formatting. So in that scenario, we need a code editor. We use code editors to write code without fear of it being formatted in the background without our knowledge, because it's just going to write the basic characters that we type into it. If you use Windows, you are going to find a code editor like Notepad. If you use Mac OS, you could find Xcode. If you use Linux, you could find Nano. Those are code editors. I will suggest that you download an IDE called VS Code. You don't have to use it. You can use your Notepad, your Xcode, or your Nano based on your operating system. I am suggesting VS Code as an IDE Because I like VS Code, there are many IDEs. But what an IDE does is make coding easy. Now look at my IDE, VS Code. In my IDE, I can see the list of folders I have within my folder. That's the directories inside my directory. Or if I create files, I also see them there. If I also decide to run my code, I will see my terminal right there. So it gives me my folder structure. It gives me a new file to write in, and it gives me a terminal in one glance. If you were using a separate code editor, after writing your code and saving it, then you have to open your terminal, run it. Then when you create folders, you possibly have to go to terminal to see, use ls to view the drop down. That might not be so attractive. But when you use your IDE, you can see the list of folders and files, you can see your code, and you can see your terminal at the same time. So if I create a new file right now, and I say new file, I'm saving file name hello.py. The file is opened right here in front of me, and I can also see it inside my folder that I have a new file called hello.py. So you need your computer, you need your terminal, you need your Python program, and you need a code editor. I love to use IDEs because they are easier. You can see everything at a glance, but you don't have to use an IDE. You need a code editor. My IDE comes with my terminal, my code editor, and a folder structure. You also need to understand that files are recognized by extensions. In the file I just created, my extension is py. So when you see dots after the file name, that's the extension. When you see index.html, it's mostly a web page because you are talking about HTML. When you see wema.png, it's most likely an image because it has an extension called PNG. Or let's say doodoo.jpg. That's also used to recognize images. For a file to be known as a Python file, it has to end with .py. That's when we know that it's a Python file. So my file here, hello.py, is a Python file. So when you want to run your Python file, you have to call Python on the file, and then Python looks into the file and sends the information to the computer, and the computer responds to give you a response to what you are asking for. So as a new coder, let's write our first code. Virtually every coder has written. So now that I wrote print hello world and I run my code, I come to my terminal to run my code. I say Python. I'm saying Python 3 because I'm trying to tell Python the version of Python to use to run my code. My file name is hello.py. So when I say Python hello.py, it responds by printing hello world to me. So if I come and say, I don't want to talk about the world, I want to talk about dear dev. Go to hello.py file. It also prints hello dear dev. You are now a programmer. Well, not completely because we have to learn a few more things, but we have on track. So in our next video, we are going to be trashing more things about Python. I'm going to let you see that it's not maths. It's just text. Before our next video, go to python.org to download the Python program that will be running your code. Follow the instructions for installation. Also, go to code.visualstudio.com if you are choosing to use an IDE like Visual Studio. Download it and follow the instructions as well. Finally, open your terminal and give it instructions. Create folders, list the items in your folders, change directories, find the working directory so that you get accustomed to working with that black screen that everybody seems to think there's nothing special about it, it's just a black screen. So the more you run around it, the more you type in it, the more you get comfortable with working with it. See you in the next video where we figure out Python together. Bye-bye.